I've been using the Anbernic RG556 for over a month, and this is what I think. The RG556 is one of the best consoles to have ever released from Anbernic, but once again it feels like it's just off the mark. Towards the end of last year we saw the RG405V, one of the best consoles of 2023. Anbernic really stepped up the game, not just in terms of performance but in terms of ergonomics and characteristics and just the overall charm of the console. The RG405V gave everybody something they didn't know they needed. That awesome beastly vertical handheld console that was capable of giving some PlayStation 2 and Gamecube emulation. And it was such a breath of fresh air. We've come to see Anbernic as pretty much just cranking out console after console and being a little bit formulaic and generic in what they create. But over 2023 we started to see that change, and Anbernic was starting to give us some really interesting and unique consoles. Consoles that were answers to questions we knew we had, and consoles that were answers to questions we hadn't even thought about. So when the RG556 was announced, a console that could give us even better Gamecube and PS2 emulation, we all got really excited. And then when we saw the design of the console and the addition of analog triggers, things just seemed perfect. The 556 is a truly awesome looking console. It looks like it's not shying away from ergonomics and what you need to make playing video games in the palm of your hand feel comfortable and exciting. The 556 has gone away from trying to just sit with a square form factor that will slide nicely in your pocket and has gone for well ergonomic designed controls. The edges bulge and flare much like a standard controller would, meaning that it sits in your hands very comfortably. It has a staggered analog stick layout, which means the left analog stick sits above the D-pad, which definitely means it's focused more on the PS2 and Gamecube side of emulation. It comes in two gorgeous looking design variants with a really smooth and sleek black or a really awesome translucent blue. It's added in those nice touches as well of LED around the analog sticks, things that we saw originally from the Odin a few years ago, which really give a more premium and fancier feel to a console like this. And most importantly, it's got staggered shoulder buttons. Not just staggered shoulder buttons, but staggered analog triggers as well. It really feels like Anbernic have listened to everything people have asked for in the ergonomic design of a console. So many things we've been asking for years now, they've put into the 556 at the perfect time as well, because all of these additions will really amplify Gamecube and PS2 emulation. But the cherry on the cake, the true shine and gem of the RG556 is that glorious, awesome OLED screen. Honestly, visually and ergonomically, Anbernic have gone to town with the 556 and created an absolutely stunning looking console that feels amazing in your hands and gives you a screen quality experience that is unrivaled in most retro gaming handhelds. But unfortunately, for as amazing as everything is that we've just described about the 556, there's something about when you get it in your hands that it just didn't live up to those expectations for me. Now I went for the translucent blue, and the type of plastic that's used on the translucent blue isn't that kind of matte effect that we sometimes get on translucent consoles. It was a shiny, clearer plastic, which means that it looks really awesome. It's very see-through, very translucent, but it has a smooth feeling on your hands, which at first is a little bit off-putting for a retro gaming handheld console, especially that's one of a more premium, more expensive variant. It definitely felt slippy to start with. Furthermore, that plastic itself didn't feel as thick or as premium as maybe we used to expecting. I think that maybe Anbernic went more for the visual aspects of this kind of plastic as opposed to maybe the feel of it itself. I'd be interested to see what the black one felt like in comparison. Personally, I'd still always pick the translucent blue just because it looks so awesome, but it would be interesting to see if the black felt any different. In your hands, the console feels as awesome as I expect. It feels really ergonomic, fills your hands nicely, and just feels really comfortable to use. The shoulder buttons and analog triggers feel really great. However, the analog sticks felt like they had a little bit shorter range than I would have liked. Now I could be nitpicking here, and I am curious as to if my opinion would have felt different had it have not been for a very certain console I've been playing prior, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, because a lot of these issues that I have are kind of comparisons to the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. The translucent plastic on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro is that thicker, more premium quality feel, and the analog sticks on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro just have an amazing level of range. They are one of the shining stars of the console. So then playing on the 556, the shortness of range was definitely noticeable. However, playing the RG556 over the period of a month, these issues did start to disappear, which makes me think that it is more of a comparison thing. That's not to say any of these comments are invalid, and the range on the analog sticks is definitely shorter and will be more noticeable in things like racing games. But over the 30 days of playing the RG556, none of these issues got in the way of the gameplay experience. The RG556 comes packed with a T820 octa-core Unisoc CPU, a Mali G57 quad-core GPU, GPU with 8GB of LPDDR4X RAM, which means it is a well-packed beast. Now this kind of processing power puts it more on par with the Retroid Pocket 4 as opposed to the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, which is why the RG556 is priced competitively with the Retroid Pocket 4 as opposed to the Pro. Now when it comes to emulation, the RG556 is definitely a step up in Gamecube and PS2 emulation over the 405V, meaning you'll have access to a lot more Gamecube and PS2 experiences than you would on the 405V. However, to get the most out of the 556, you're gonna have to push the system to its limits. Now, similar to the Retroid Pocket 4 series, the 556 does have a high performance mode, and to be honest, when playing Gamecube and PS2 games, you pretty much have to have the system on high performance throughout. Not doing this won't give you the best from those experiences, and you will start to notice slowdown and stutter. Now, as we've come to expect, Gamecube emulation is the easier side of things, and you are going to get a good solid amount of Gamecube experiences that you can fully enjoy on the RG556. A lot of the games are going to be running at 100%, especially if you're running in high performance mode. And for any games that aren't, you can play around with settings to try and get the most out of them. PlayStation 2, on the other hand, things are a bit trickier, and you are still going to struggle getting 100% game coverage for a lot of games on the PS2. Now don't get me wrong, the 556 is massively capable, and if you play around with settings, you are going to get a huge amount of gameplay experiences from the PS2 emulation. But this is by no means a pick up and play experience. You're going to have to know places that you can play around with the settings. You're going to have to know things like messing around with the clock rate and the GPU renderers, etc. And once again, you're going to have to be running your system on high performance mode, which means you're going to be using the maximum amount of your battery most of the time. Now, all in all, the 556 is a fantastic system for emulating Gamecube and PlayStation 2. However, it isn't quite the beast I was hoping it to be. I wanted to play PS2 and Gamecube out of the box with very little issues, especially Gamecube. And although pretty much all Gamecube games are eventually playable and about 80% of the PS2 library, it's not as smooth an experience as I was hoping it was going to be, which is a shame because the RG556 is actually a stunning console. It's such a fantastic design and gives you so much for your money. Fantastic ergonomics, great controls, a superb screen, and really decent power. Over the month of using the RG556, I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and it is a fantastic gaming machine. But anytime I'm thinking about playing a Gamecube, or more specifically a PS2 game as well, my mind instantly goes to the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. A more expensive console, but a console that's given me exactly what I want for those gaming experiences. The RG556 is awesome, but it is not perfect. And I would love to see a pro version of the 556 for Anbernic to improve the performance and maybe tweak a couple of the little design choices as well, like the range in the analog sticks. If they did, that for me would elevate the 556 potentially to the #1 spot of the current retro gaming handheld scene. If you want to get your hands on a 556, links will be in the description below. But if you want to compare it to the Retroid Pocket 4, check out this video right here.